The project is called Did You Finish That Sandwich? And that will become clear why I've called it that. I was using a thing called That Reading Thing, which is, Tricia has described beautifully, succinctly, as a structured sequential phonics program, and that kind of tells you all you need to know. I was teaching group settings, class sizes of about 8 to 10, and obviously when we locked down in March 2020, that wasn't possible anymore. Lots of my learners couldn't get online, so I was trying to find something that I could do with them one-to-one when I was allowed to meet with them. I'd been aware of That Reading Thing from attending various ETF phonic toolkit programs. So I signed up and did the That Reading Thing TRT course, and then started using it on my learners. The project tested the use of That Reading Thing kind of as against my experience of using other phonic programs and other interventions to improve learners' reading and spelling. It was one-to-one sessions because that's all I could do, but actually what I've learned is that that's actually a fantastic way of dealing with those learners, and they have made absolutely amazing progress. So this little presentation will show you the extent of their progress and how quick that progress has been improving spelling and reading. I've used it online, I've used it face-to-face. I mean, I think face-to-face is actually better, but some learners have continued to do it online, and I have done it online with some of those learners. I think it demonstrates that adults with reading and spelling challenges make more progress, quicker progress, more impact on their self-esteem, on their self-confidence, and on their general literacy ability. More progress than we would usually see in a group context over the same space of time. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about, it's this is a little shot of the first thing you do in the program. So this is a reading test that you do. And the first sheet is 15 words that you give to the learners, and then this is the tutor's sheet. And what you do is you mark, you record the learner responses to those words. So this is the first sheet. There are 3 sheets, so the words get more complex as they go through the sheets. But this is the first sheet, and so the learners will just see these words. They'll just see a sheet of paper that says lot, rid, till, temp, and so on. And I did this with learner C, you can see, on the 16th of March. You can see that in the top left there. And the first column is yes, whether they got it right or not. So on the 16th of March, they didn't get any of those first 4 words right, and I've recorded what their response was. So their response to lot was lost, and rid was ride, and till was tell. So you can see, if you've got some experience of what that means, is that they're not confident in their decoding of those words at all. I then did an hour a week with this particular learner. This was face-to-face, and then again on the 10th of May, I tested them again with these same words. And you can see there, that row of ticks there, that they got all of those words right. So you can see in the space of, about 6 weeks, they have become able to decode those relatively simple words, but they couldn't do that before. And so that's a total of about 5 or 6 hours. And actually they went on, if you see the rest of these sheets, I didn't do anything beyond the first sheet with them, but this particular learner got to the bottom of the second sheet, decoding the words. So that shows that it wasn't just because they've seen these words before, it's actually they were able to read fresh words. So that's the impact of that with just a few hours one-to-one work. And I think if you compare that to maybe 6 hours in a classroom, probably 3 lessons, I don't think you would see that kind of progress from a class-based intervention. This is the little case study that I want to show you about today as well. So this was learner E, who is his mid-20s. He works, so I've been working with him online. He's not able to come face to face. And on the 9th of November, I started this, and I did this initial bit of reading with him. And you can see that he got lot correct. He read that perfectly well. But his response for rid was rod and till was tall, for example. And then when I tried it on the 13th of November, so that is in the same week after 1 hour of intervention and pointing out the basics of how you decode words, how you attack a word, how you spell, sound out the sounds that you see. He had then the ability to read all of those words. He read lot, he read rid, he read till, he read kelp. He made a go at temp, wasn't quite sure. So that is literally after the first session. And I just want to show you a little bit about the impact of this. So this is then on the 10th of May. So this is a couple of months later, having done one-to-one online with me. This is a report he wrote for work. He was acting up as duty manager at a leisure centre in Islington. And he has to write reports. And for a dyslexic learner who had trouble reading the word till, that's a big deal for him at work. And one of the reasons he was acting up as manager was because he wasn't given the opportunity. His line manager didn't think he had the English skills to be able to cope with doing that job permanently. So he was acting up as duty manager. He was writing reports like this in May. And then his job was advertised again and he applied for it. And amazingly, he got the job. I helped him out before his interview, kind of gave him a bit of confidence. He had to do a reading test, he had to do a writing test. And then in June, just a couple of weeks ago, he got the job. He was really, really, really pleased that he could get that. And he put it down entirely to the fact that his ability to do that reading and that writing stuff was now within his grasp. And he was really, really pleased that he'd made that progress. So that's in the space of about 6-7 months I've been working with him, probably a total of about 18 hours now. But he's really doing well. A couple of kind of examples of the impact. So these are some of the other words that a learner would have read in October. This was the kind of thing that they were saying. They were saying, so for splat, split was what they suggested. A month later, they're getting all of those words right. And the reason I called it "Did you finish that sandwich?" was because that's one of the kind of landmark sentences that learners quite early on in the program they attack those sh sounds, the sh and ch and th. So things like finish and sandwich are really kind of landmark words for them. So this learner being able to write "Did you finish that sandwich?" for himself was a really big moment for that particular learner.
Simon, just 2 minutes left, just to let you know.
Thank you. I would really recommend. The impact is such that we're going to in the Islington ACL we're going to offer one-to-one support alongside Entry 2 classes next year. We're going to fund them through the additional learning support funding stream, monitor it and do an initial assessment as you would do normally. But the funding's been cleared, and we're going to be able to offer that to everybody who presents, and we think will benefit from that process. A couple of my colleagues have done the TRT training as well, and I would really recommend that if you've got learners you think would benefit, that would be a really, really interesting thing. A link there to Tricia's website and the references as well. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. So if anybody has any questions, that would be really good.
I promise you I don't pay Simon. Just to let you know. He's not in my employ. Thank you, Simon. That's lovely.
Thank you, Simon. I don't think it was hard not to tear up a little bit when you're sharing those learner journeys. I don't know if anyone else felt like that, but it just goes to show, honestly, the adaptability and responsiveness to your learners' needs that you've kind of shown this year has just been incredible, and the truly life-changing impact, I think, clear for everybody to see there. So without further ado, because I'm really conscious of time, I'm going to introduce Sam Hobbs, who thankfully despite a very chaotic, stressful morning, has managed to join us. So welcome, Sam. I'm going to share Sam's slides, and then Sam is going to welcome questions. Hopefully we'll have 3 or 4 minutes for people to ask some questions that I think will be really useful. So I'm just going to try and do that now. There we are, and then share sound. Tomorrow's for video clips. Sorry, I'm talking myself through, as usual, a Zoom tutorial. Right. Oh, let's move this bar out the way because it's... sorry. Trying to move my Zoom bar, which has helpfully gone in the way of the share screen bit on it. There we go. Sorry.
Hello and welcome to my presentation on using audio to aid the teaching of phonics. So I work at Haringey Adult Learning Service, which is a local authority provider for 19+ learners. So the context of who took part in the project was an entry-level 1-2 functional skills English class and an ESOL spelling, grammar and punctuation class. So what did we use? We identified some phonics readers early on, and these were turned into audio PowerPoints in English, where learners were encouraged to track words as listening, audio recordings in ESOL, where learners were encouraged to listen carefully for pronunciation. These were used alongside other spelling strategies such as word sorting, close, and word stretching. And the audio was mainly used for reinforcement of learning. So learners were asked to listen to the recordings at home for homework. So this really encouraged independent learning. Learner feedback on using audio. I listen all the time. When I can see the word and pronounce it, I can read it and spell it. SA, English Functional Skills Learner. I found it very useful. It gave me an extra push. To be honest, my spelling has gone from 0 to 10. RC, Functional Skills Learner. It helped me a lot in terms of speaking. Even when I went to the hospital, I was able to express myself without fear, e.g. ESOL Learner. The Phonics project has improved all of my English skills. I'm more confident with the English language, HAD, ESOL Learner. Learning from this project. Audio allows for repetition. Therefore, learners have agency over their own learning. It is up to them how often they practice. It is up to them when they practice. So this can fit into their lifestyles. Because we mainly teach adults, a lot of them are working or have children. So this flexibility is really, really key. Pronunciation of words was just as important for English functional skills learners as it was for ESOL learners. Many very low level literacy learners struggle to read words. For example, the word bread, as in a loaf of bread. Some of them might pronounce it bread, some of them might pronounce it breed. So phonics and then audio on top of the phonics, helping them to hear the sounds, was really, really helpful. The other aspect is that in London, the difference between English functional skills learners and ESOL learners is very, very slim. The majority of our learners at Howes are from ESOL backgrounds, and this can lead to pronunciation issues. So in my English functional skills class, I had to do as much drilling of sounds as probably an ESOL teacher would. One positive aspect that was digital skills were improved as learners had to learn how to run a slideshow or open an audio file. Initially, they found this quite difficult, but once they had managed to do this, it gave them confidence to use other aspects of their digital skills, and it just became a routine and was not really an issue. And this also meant that they were able to open links. So we also underpinned the learning with links to useful websites. My colleague Melanie identified Spellzone, which was a really, really useful website where audio is also used. So for example, you can send a word list on a particular sound, and it gives you the option to click on the word and hear the word, and this further underpinned learning. So how to create an audio PowerPoint. It is super quick and super easy. Create an ordinary PowerPoint. Click on slideshow on the toolbar. Click on record slideshow. Top tip, if you fluff your lines, which I do regularly, click on clear and select the option clear current slide. Then you will not have to start all over again. Adding audio to a PowerPoint usually takes 5 minutes, so why not have a go? Also really good for other teaching and learning, e.g. inductions or instructions for completing speaking and listening exams. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Sam. So we do still have around 4 to 5 minutes. So hopefully some people may have some questions that you'd like to ask to either Sam or Melanie. I didn't introduce you, Melanie, apologies for that, but Melanie's worked with Sam really, really closely on the project all year and has taken the ESOL classes at Howes. So if anyone has a question, perhaps we could have questions in the chat, and then Sam and Melanie can hopefully respond to as many as we have time for in the next 3-4 minutes. Does that sound okay, Tricia?
Yeah, sure. We're a good sized group that if you want to turn your mic off and just
yeah, true.
feel free, because we're nice and small.
Did someone have a hand up? I saw. Yeah, who had their hand up? Louise.
There you are.
Hi. So this phonics dilemma, it really is a tough one, and I use Spellzone a lot. I think it's a great site, and I think what you're suggesting using the audio is absolutely fab. I think that'll work a treat. Sounds great. But you referred to phonics readers. So the thing I struggle with adults is the resources. Could you just like looking for resources that are adult appropriate? That's the trickiest thing I find. What are phonics readers?
Melanie, do you want to answer that, because you identified the resources?
Okay, yeah, we use the Drop-In series by Frances Woodward, and they're stories for adults, and with the stories also comes worksheets, for example, reading comprehension questions, sorting questions, using rhyme. But from there, you know, what I did, I used the themes. For example, if it was a snowy day, maybe we came up with writing about the weather or writing about, you know, your life in the UK. So we sort of made it topic appropriate, age appropriate, and also leading on to poetry as well. So that was the starting point, and I would recommend it.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. That's a great tip.
Can I just add that ESOL were very, very creative and took it in a very creative way. So they used phonics as an audio phonics as a springboard into creative. And I was actually, I don't really like teaching functional skills, but we have to do it. So I was actually very much embedding it into a functional skills English course. So I would say I totally agree with you, Louise. Finding resources is really, really difficult. I also created some of my own resources, which I am happy to share with people if they are interested, because I think that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't all be at home beavering away. And Melanie and I had a lot of collaboration, so we stole a lot of ideas off of each other, which was really, really helpful.
Yes.
I had a question for Simon, because even though we're supposed to be doing a project together, we haven't actually barely met. And I was interested in some of the vocabulary in that reading thing, as in like kelp and shod. And I wondered, because I don't really know how that reading thing works, I wondered how, do you have to spend a lot of time sort of decoding the vocabulary for, because if you've got learners from an ESOL background, or they weren't necessarily in your project?
No, in my experience, it's not. Well, I haven't worked with learners from an ESOL background entirely in that reading thing. The people that I've worked with have been native speakers or near native speakers. So I'm not sure how it would work with ESOL. Tricia will be able to tell us. But I mean, the point about using those words, I guess, is exactly that. It's about decoding them, isn't it? And about, you know, about not necessarily having, not necessarily being able to jump at words that you recognise. That's the whole point of it, really, I think.
Just say those words that Simon showed, the program's based on the 2,000 most common words in English. In the assessment, they're just really unusual words, because I was working with boys from the youth offending team who had very serious anger management issues and tiny vocabularies. So when I was using nonsense words, they were getting very frustrated because they felt stupid that they didn't know that word. Whereas I just used weird words and said, some of the tutors don't know what kelp is, right? That's fine. That actually just cuts down that thing. Nobody knows all the words, so let's just not worry about it. And it's only for the assessment, not for this.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic thing, because you do exactly know, even from one page of that first page that I showed, at that stage you know exactly where that learner is, exactly what they can decode and what they can't. You know, if they're familiar with the sh, if they know what that is, you know straight away, and you know exactly where they're going to have an issue. So yeah, it works really well.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
You look brilliant, Simon. You look really brilliant. It's really good.
Oh, you are.
Thank you, Sam and Melanie. And I'm really sorry. I'm just going to push to just move on, just in the interest of time, because I'm really, really conscious that poor Claire otherwise might end up with less than 10 minutes, and I'm sure she'll need every second. So please, could people continue though to ask in the chat, and feel free to send private messages and things, and I'm sure Sam and Melanie, you both welcome people to get in touch afterwards, wouldn't you? But I think absolutely testament to, again, how adaptable you've both been this year, that you've had such success with the audio, and your learners, as we can see from the feedback, have been so grateful. So thank you. So next, I am really proud to introduce Rebecca Maynard from Redcar and Cleveland College. And Rebecca's going to tell you all about their fantastic project using phonics in vocational areas. So carrying on the phonics theme.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Right, is that working?
Yeah, there you go.
It's been a while since I've done any online delivery. So yeah, our project at Redcar and Cleveland College looked at embedding phonics into vocational delivery and just really getting our vocational tutors on board. So we've actually took like a bit of a journey with phonics. 3 years ago, we piloted a project with like the OTLA, and this was just when we knew that functional skills was introducing phonics as a spelling strategy with the new reform. So yeah, we just were testing the toolkit that Tricia and co made, and then last year, was it last year, COVID year, we started embedding phonics into English and maths more, taking everything that we'd learned on the pilot project and just really embedding it in as a spelling strategy into our English sessions, but also in our maths sessions. And then this year we've took it that one step further and embedded it into our vocational classroom. So I will tell you a little bit about that. Right, I'm going to get you to do an activity just because, you know, that's what I'm like. So what you're going to do is you're going to spell a word. I'll tell you the word in due course. But the first thing I want you to do before you even think about the spellings or anything, I want you to think about the syllables and identify the number of syllables that's in the word. And then we're going to talk about the sounds and the spellings. So don't rush off and get too excited. Okay, so, and I don't know if you want to pop them in the chat or something. So the word is, are you ready for this? Polysaccharide. Polysaccharide. So I just want you to tell me how many syllables. Trisha, you're the expert, so you can't really. Simon, how many syllables?
5, I reckon.
What are we thinking? Are we agreeing? Yeah? Yeah, so there's 5 syllables. Okay, now you're going to spell it thinking about the sounds. No Googling, no cheating, nothing like that. So the first sound, what is the first sound? Think about the first sound. So polysaccharide. You can write it down if you want. You don't need to talk to me.
You're getting lots of answers in the chat, Rebecca. Yeah.
I'm not looking.
I can read a couple out if it helps.
Yeah.
So we've got some people have split it into the syllables as well. Wow, some really good guesses, I think. Somebody said Carl and Arga have said POLY. SACCARIDE.
Yeah, they might be top of the class.
Simon said polysaccharide to show the syllables, and written poly like the girl's name, sack like a bin bag, and then ride as in ride in a car.
Right. Interesting.
What else? Oh, and he's also put I guess what we'd probably call his more serious attempt, POLYSACCHARYDE, which again could be equally plausible, couldn't it?
Okay, right. Right, they're doing quite well with the spelling. So what I'm going to do now is, what is it though? Give me a definition of the word. No cheating. Or what vocation do you think that we were delivering this in?
It's a health and social care thing, isn't it? Isn't it I don't know what it is. Isn't it a chemical compound or something?
It is a chemical compound. You could embed it in a health and social care. That wasn't the session that we were looking at it. That wasn't the vocation, but yeah, it's a compound in carbohydrates.
Nutrition or something, is it?
Yeah, so think about nutrition. Think what's vocational area.
Just to let you know, Rebecca, not to rush you at all, we've got about 3-4 minutes, so just so that you're aware.
I'll put it on. So what we would do is we would give the learners these graphemes already split up. Obviously, it's a hard word, so we talk about the syllables, and then they'd have these post-it notes, not in order, all jumbled up, and we'd start to work with the sounds and spelling the sounds out. Now, some learners might not need these. Some learners could do it on their own, as you have. Other learners need these post-it notes to start to sound them out. So I'll show you. So it's sport studies. Yeah, 5 syllables. Here are the graphemes here. So we try and focus on the different sounds and splitting the sounds into the graphemes, because that makes it easier for them to be able to spell them. And then obviously a grapheme like CCH or AR, we can then use it in other spellings. I mean, the only other word that I can think with that is monosaccharide, because obviously it's an unusual grapheme, but you can do it with the shunt endings and things like that, the double M's in communication, and cross it over. So a sports studies tutor actually delivered this and did this. You know, he's not an English specialist, he hasn't looked at phonics before, he's had a bit of training, and that's how he embedded this in his sessions. So just a little background on our learners. So these are two of our brilliant learners who have been with phonics in the phonics project from the very beginning, both on foundation learning, entry-level learners. So these can just use phonics as a spelling strategy just on their own. I work with the learners who aren't that used to it, and they'll just do their phonics by themselves, then we'll come up on the board and write them up and the graphemes and everything, and they embed it into all their other sessions as well. So just a little background on this learner. So when he started college, I couldn't get him right, I couldn't get him to stay in the classroom, like it was dramatic. Now he's just my little shining star. He's recognised the importance of English. He couldn't read and write, and it was always a barrier, but he's a big massive gamer, and sometimes he'll play like foreign games, so now he's reading the subtitles and he can actually understand what's going on in his games. Online learning, he was fantastic. His mum has dyslexia, and he's actually helping his mum and his brothers and sisters with their like English work, when before he wouldn't even be in my classroom. We've got this learner here as well, Kirsty, so she's been doing it for 2 years. Wasn't in mainstream schools, she's one of my 14 to 15 learners, just because the needs weren't being met. She is a different person now. Her spellings, she's spelling words that she could never spell before. She's so much more confident. And it's because of that collaboration in each area. She's not just doing it in English, in the vocational areas as well. So, but more about these are in our report and our success stories. So one thing
30 seconds, sorry Rebecca, I'm really sorry, it's a horrible job.
One thing we found is we needed to coach our vocational tutors that didn't have the confidence with it. We thought we could just tell them how to do it and they'd do it. So we've actually designed a coaching model, and we're hoping to do more work on this like next academic year, to really help our vocational tutors build their confidence so they can confidently do it as well. So yeah, watch this space. And any questions?
I think maybe we could take questions in the chat, if that's okay, Rebecca, just purely so that we don't eat into Claire's time. But well done for a fantastic presentation, and I just want to say how moved I've been by your learner journeys. I think everybody will probably share in that, and really I'd encourage everybody to go and read the report and look at those appendices in detail, because it's really clear the impact that Redcar and Cleveland embracing phonics and really taking the time to embed it into all areas of the college. That consistency has just really changed lives. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Claire Ashworth. It's my pleasure to introduce Claire, and she's going to tell you all about their project at Macclesfield College, helping learners to understand functional skills maths questions, the eternal dilemma, I'm sure, for functional skills maths teachers. Just to let you know, Claire, please take your 10 minutes. So we'll go until 12:18. I think there's 5 minutes grace on the plan before we head straight back to the main room then, as soon as Claire finishes. So over to you, Claire.
Thank you. So I've entitled my presentation, It's the Little Things, because I did feel that what I sort of discovered through the project wasn't a huge, you know, earth-shattering thing. So that's what I've called it. And it's about developing supportive strategies to enable students to attempt and solve functional skills word problems. I picked functional skills because our pass rate in maths had started declining. I think a combination of the reform of functional skills, and also perhaps particularly this year, the validity of the grade 1. I think a lot of schools last year just gave a grade 1 to anyone who didn't get a grade 2 really, whereas if you were sitting an exam, you would obviously come out with a 1 if you actually were a 1. So I think some of the students who were getting were perhaps a little bit above a grade 1 and would normally have come in with a grade U. So we were struggling a little bit with whether they were even capable of doing level 1 functional skills. So we picked a group of learners, and the first selection criteria was, are you on level 1 functional skills? And I also wanted students who I knew, so I picked students who were returning students who I'd either taught or had some form of contact with, so they would know who I was. The second wave, I took on any students who were interested, and also an adult student, just to see if there was any difference there. And then the project then moved on to one-to-ones delivered by other teachers, and then some whole class delivery. And what we did is we had 6 sessions. We did some questionnaire work at the beginning with learners, looking at how they felt about maths, the language in maths, and just where their issue was really. And every single one of them said word problems, which was what I was hoping they would say, but it wasn't led. They did generally come out with that. And then we explored what it was that was causing them the problem. And the strategies that they came up with were very student-led. So they were looking at drawing sketches, highlighting information, annotating, storyboarding, underlining key points, ticking elements off as you go. And the learners selected what worked for them. And then we spent time consolidating those strategies. There was also a session put in, the learners wanted me to take the words out of maths problems completely and just give them a go on some questions that were just purely maths. So that was in response to learner feedback. And then at the end, we had a questionnaire where we revisited what the learners thought. Now, I think the next slide is just an example of one of the pieces of work from the learners. So this particular learner, they did the underlining of key information. They did some diagrams here to try and support them in adding units of time together. And they also did this ticking off as they go, which they said, was really helpful in breaking down the problem. If the problem was a bit insurmountable, it helped them to see the end was in sight. In terms of what happened, most of the learners cited increased confidence, well, all of them did, but actually the pass rate for these learners involved in the project was 60%, versus our college pass rate, which is a very gloomy 18%, and a national pass rate that is 10% currently for, I think it's girls, and 13% for boys. So the 60% is obviously a huge increase on national and our own college pass rate. I'll also pop up some quotes there. There's quite a lot there, so I'll just give you a couple of minutes just to read through some of those quotes of what the learners actually said about the project. There's quite a few there. I think some of them are even suggesting that they actually feel quite positive about GCSE next year, which is also very, very good. In terms of what I learned from the project, I had to relinquish control. I think as teachers, we want to teach, we want to control things a little bit. So I had to learn to let the project evolve naturally. It became very learner driven, which is, I think, why it was successful. And I sort of was thinking, learners actually might just know what they need and what will help them, rather than us actually always dictating that. So we worked really collaboratively, sorry, I can't speak today, with the learners, and we gave them a lot of ownership. And I think that's what helped them engage with the process. Also, I learned a lot about the process of action research and the value of having a mentor for true reflective and critical thinking. And then I'm just going to put a couple of conclusions up in terms of sort of the conclusion of the project, really. I think it was successful because it came from the learners, and we were acting as facilitators, and getting them to explore what it would be that would help them, taking away that kind of the natural sort of wanting to teach, but rather turning into a facilitator, a coach, an enabler. We became very sensitive to learner voice and sort of dug deep to find out what these learners wanted, rather than having a sort of preconceived idea of what was going to work. I think Kirsty will say right at the beginning, I had a long list of what was going to happen in the project, and I pretty much made it all up at the beginning. And actually it didn't happen the way I thought it would. And I think that was the real beauty of the process of action research, really, and how it evolved into something completely different to what my initial ideas would be. I think that's what's enabled the learners to make so much progress as well. So I'll stop sharing, and if anybody's got any questions. Oh, there's a couple in chat. It was mainly level 1 functional skills. We do deliver level 2, but only to adults. We don't deliver level 2 functional skills to 16 to 18.
So is it only just grade 1s you do level 1 with?
We basically, our old sort of model was, we put the grade 1s onto level 1 as long as they don't already have it. And entry 3 was for those learners that came in with a U, providing they initially assessed in line with that as well. I think what we're going to do this year is we're going to purely base everything on our initial assessment and a diagnostic, and actually put them where they need to go. Because I think the model we've used in previous years only worked because it used exam results, whereas we're relying on teacher assessed grades. And I think a lot of students have just been given a grade 1 because it's like, we don't want to give them a U, and they're not actually a grade 1. And a grade 1 isn't a weaker grade 2. It really is a certain skill set that was a grade 1 when it was examined, and now it just seems to be any old person can get a grade 1 just for turning up. So it really wasn't an effective way of grouping them this year. So
I agreed. We've done it as well this year, and we are now seeing what you're seeing. So next year we initially assessing everybody below grade 3. Yeah, definitely. That's what we'll be doing.
In terms of the storyboarding, that actually worked for some learners who needed to know what the question was asking. So I got them to draw little pictures out of what was going on. To be honest, they didn't actually jump on that method. I quite liked it, and I also got them to be the person in the question. So if it's I don't know, a question, anything, Claire goes and does this thing, I got them to change the name so it became more relevant for them, and then try and get them to sort of draw it out. But that wasn't the method they liked the best. But actually, that's my learners. I think if you tried this with your own learners, you might get a completely different picture of what works for the learners in your setting, really. So
I think we've got time for just one more question. If you can see Tina's last one there, Claire.
I did actually do this with one level 2 learner, just because she was desperate to join in the research, and it did work with her as well. She was an adult learner doing level 2, and she was an ESOL learner as well. So it did help her as well. I think it does transcend all the levels, and we did roll it out to entry 3 as well, and it supported them as well, and they all passed. I think everybody bar one person now has passed who did the project, whereas so that 60% I quoted, the recent claims and certification that are coming in, that's gone up, and I think there is literally one learner who hasn't passed out of the cohort that did the project.
Amazing. Could there be a better place to end on a high than that, Claire? I think everybody will agree you've done some amazing things there at Macclesfield, and the learners above all would certainly agree with that. So we're all heading back to the main room now, but I just want to very quickly say thank you to all of you who have just presented and answered questions and asked questions, and thank you as well to you, Tricia, for being an amazing support to me and to all of the project leads and participants.
Thank you all. Everyone's done
a great year.
Brilliantly well. I really, really appreciate your sharing today, but all the work you did in the run-up is phenomenal.
Absolutely. So as always with these things, wish we could stay another hour, but we'll dash back to the main room now and yeah, enjoy the rest of the day, everybody, and read in the reports. Sorry.
Can I just say I want Claire to teach me maths?
Me too. I'll join.
Bye.